Hey there YouTube, Wrestling Optimus here, back with another action figure review. We've come to the end of another wrestling week, which means it's time for Smackdown on FS1? That's right, tonight's episode got bumped for the World Series, so it's on a different channel. It's also the go-home show for Hell in a Cell, so let's see if WWE can sell me on that better than AEW sold me on Full Gear. As always, if you're new here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more pro wrestling and action figure content. Now, we're headed into the Thunderdome! So for a recap and review, let's take it over to the action figures. Smackdown opens with the first Friday night edition of the KO show, with special guest Daniel Bryan. They talk about how in the past they pushed each other to be the best, and that's what Bryan wants for everyone on the Blue Brand's stacked roster. He also wants the show to highlight their talents, such as his idea to defend the Intercontinental Championship every week. Speaking of championships, Kevin says that despite all his accomplishments in WWE, he's never been a tag team champion. Daniel says that makes sense because he's betrayed a lot of friends. Setting that aside, KO thinks they would make a good team. They might even be better than Team Hell No. That brings out Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. Dolph makes some Van Halen references in honor of Eddie, while Robert claims that they're the best tag team on the planet. The SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, have something to say about that. They set up Dolph for another Van Halen reference before saying they're up and they want the smoke. Sure, why not? Bring out Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura too. They say they've been holding up the SmackDown Tag Team division for months now, only to watch the belts get literally handed to the Street Profits, and that pisses them off. Bryan says this is the perfect opportunity to test KO's theory, so holla holla, we got ourselves an 8-man tag team match, playa. During a routine corner backflip, Bryan tweaks his knee with an awkward landing, so Cesaro and the heels work it over through a commercial break. Eventually, Angelo Dawkins gets the hot tag, but he's stopped by a Shinsuke and Cesaro double team. Robert Roode sells a KO stunner ridiculously, and they tumble to the outside, giving Cesaro the chance to make a pin attempt, but the ref catches him using his legs on the rope for leverage. The ensuing argument allows Dawkins to hit a spine buster and tag Montez Ford in for a big splash and the victory. Ford and Bryan shake the top rope together in a funny moment. Backstage, they celebrate and Daniel gets so worked up that he screams, "That was so rad! Up with the smoke! Fist me, boys!" Yup, a fisting joke. Sami Zayn comes over and confronts Daniel about earlier. See, he disagrees. The Intercontinental title is too special to defend every week. More importantly, it's Sami's, meaning he dictates how often it's defended and who gets opportunities. You tell him, Sami. Your belt, your rules. It's finally time for Thunderdome Court, cleverly titled Law and Otis. The voiceover explains that in an unusual move, Otis will be representing himself. They play the People's Court music and keep using the gong sound from Law and Order. It turns out the APA found new work with Farouk as the bailiff and JBL presiding as judge. Even though he actually has a lawyer, Miz wants to give his own opening arguments. He cites a combination of fake and real but unrelated cases before claiming that Otis has not been a responsible Mr. Money in the Bank. And as a former Mr. Money in the Bank, it's the Miz's obligation to remove that contract from Otis's possession and give it to an honorable superstar, like him. Otis's argument is simple. He deserves the contract because he won the Money in the Bank ladder match fair and square. Miz's lawyer says that's a good argument, so she's fired. Later on, John Morrison takes the witness stand. Through crocodile tears, he claims Otis hurts people, but the emotional toll is always worse than the physical one. Fellow Money in the Bank ladder match participant Rey Mysterio testifies that, as far as he's concerned, Otis won, so he should get to cash in the contract on his terms. Asuka just shouts in Japanese. JBL asks the courtroom stenographer if they got that, and Teddy Long pops up to say, "Every word, playa." Tucker says that when Miz got Mandy Rose traded to Raw, he crossed a line and deserves everything that he's getting. He threatens The Miz after getting labeled a hostile witness. After a commercial, Judge JBL renders his verdict. He explains that emotional distress, destruction of property, and creating an unsafe work environment are basically just the job description for a WWE superstar. Furthermore, there's no negligence. The contract clearly states that Otis has a full year to cash in. However, before he can rule in favor of the defendant, Miz bribes him with a briefcase full of money, and JBL immediately reverses his decision. Otis is forced to put his contract on the line against The Miz at Hell in a Cell. Farouk just says, "Damn!" There's another cool video package of Bianca Belair before she comes out for her Smackdown debut against bitter rival Zelina Vega. Maybe they didn't forget that poisoning storyline after all. It's basically a squash as Bianca deadlifts Vega before delivering the KOD for the win. Kayla Braxton interviews Shorty G in the ring. He feels disrespected by where he went in the draft, so he's out to prove himself against the Freak. I love Chad Gable, but as a matter of principle, I don't review Lars Sullivan segments. He wins with the Freak accident. Interestingly, afterwards, a dejected Shorty G tells Kayla that he quits. Not the GM Adam Pearce confronts him about this in the trainer's room. Chad says that he quits being Shorty G. He hates the gimmick and the stupid name. He goes into his impressive amateur and Olympic background before making a subtle dick joke. He finishes by saying, "Chad Gable is back." Yes, he's just speaking what the fans have been saying this whole time. Seth Rollins is interviewed backstage. He says it sucks that his former disciple turned on him, but Murphy needs to understand his role in the greater good. The Messiah leads, the disciple follows. Bayley is in the ring with a chair to address the WWE Universe. She's been doing a lot of press lately, and all they want to talk about is Sasha Banks. Yeah, because there's a pay-per-view on Sunday. But Bayley claims that she just wants to be done with Sasha, who doesn't deserve a match at Hell in a Cell anyway. So no, she's not going to sign the contract. That brings out the boss. She steals the women's championship and holds it hostage. When Bayley tries to snatch it back, Sasha grabs the chair. She sticks Bayley's head in it and demands that she sign. After adding in a submission hold, the champ relents. Sasha gets in her face and says, "On Sunday, I'm gonna finish what you started." Seth Rollins takes on Murphy while Aaliyah watches from backstage. Ray notices about halfway through and attempts, unsuccessfully, to get her to stop. Obviously, the story is that Seth is trying to put Murphy in his proverbial place. Corey Graves claims that people like Murphy need the guidance from men like Rollins. There's a scary moment where Murphy overshoots a dive to the outside and almost misses Seth completely. Murphy somehow injures his shoulder on a Meteora, so Seth works that over to the dismay of Aaliyah. It's a really good match, but in the end, Seth wins with the stomp. Seth gets a kendo stick, so Aaliyah rushes out and lays across Murphy until Dominic runs out too. Since Rollins can't attack a girl, he goes after Dom, prompting Ray to also come out. Father and son argue, while Aaliyah and Murphy embrace inappropriately. Roman Reigns methodically makes his way to the ring and silently demands the mic, but before he can speak, we hear a voice coming from the Tron. An Uso with a bandana says the VIP suite is an example of how nice it is to be the tribal chief. It used to be nice being his cousin too, but Roman changed. He's got his head so far up his tribal chief ass that he lost connection with himself and the family. But don't ask him, ask his brother Jay, who's standing right behind Reigns. Jay attacks Roman. They each fail to use a chair before Jay nails an Uso splash and stands tall. Jimmy joins his brother on stage as they celebrate getting the better of their cousin, the great tribal chief. Once again, Roman demands a mic and asks, "Is this a game to you boys?" He explains that if he loses, he won't be the Universal Champion or the face of the WWE anymore. More importantly, he won't be the head of the family and the provider for generations of their bloodline. But if he's forced to quit, then he can live with that. However, can Jay handle the consequences if he loses? Roman says that once he makes his cousin quit, and he will, Jay will have to fall in line, take orders, respect him, and acknowledge him for who he is and what he does for the family. And if Jay can't do that, then he's out. Not just him, but his brother, their wives, their children, and their children's children. They're all out of the family. The consequence for Jay is excommunication from the Samoan dynasty. Suddenly, the cell ominously lowers around Roman as the weight of everything hits Jay. But, in a show of defiance, he storms down the ramp and climbs up the cell while staring down Reigns from above. That was a really good show, and absolutely flew by. Not as good as Dynamite, but way better than Raw. Unfortunately, I'm still not excited about Hell in a Cell. I mean, I kind of want to see Roman vs. Jay, and I'm sure Sasha vs. Bayley will be decent, but there remains shockingly little heat going into this pay-per-view that, as of recording, only has 4 matches. With that said, the 8-man tag team match was really fun, and I personally thought the Law and Otis segments were hysterical. I still hate that Lars is on TV, and the Murphy-Aaliyah romance is creepy, but otherwise, an easy 2 hours of good old sports entertainment. Alright, that'll do it for a special edition of Smackdown on FS1. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. Keep it here all weekend long for my predictions and action figure review of Hell in a Cell. As always, if you found me and enjoy my content, make sure to do all that normal YouTube stuff. Smash the like button, share with any wrestling or action figure fans you may know, subscribe to the channel, and spread the word. You can also talk to me over on Twitter at PSUOptimus, or see all my best figure photography over on Instagram at WrestlingOptimus. If you haven't seen my review of AEW Dynamite and the Dinner Debonair, you can check that out right here. But until next time, I've been Wrestling Optimus, and I'll catch you later.